All right, so we are here with Dominique Dafney, former tight end for the Packers. It's his third time coming on the show. He's an official friend of the show. Dom, how are you?
Doing good, just like I said, enjoying off season and relaxing and just taking care of myself.
That's nice, man. So you were cut in August by the Packers, and I have to say, maybe Braun and I are a little impartial here, but I have to say, we were in Green Bay for training camp in August, and we would not shut up about you on these podcasts because it seemed like every time you were targeted at these camp practices, you were making plays, you were catching the ball. I remember one play where you were on like a crosser where you caught the ball and you scored a touchdown and you ran through tackles, and we kept talking about you on these shows. And I am not even kidding when I say that when I saw the notification that the Packers had released Dominique Dafney, it was probably the most shocked I've been this year, other than Davante Adams being traded. I'm not even kidding about that. So what do you think from the Packers' perspective, or from your perspective even, what do you think went into that decision to move on from you?
Part of it just being somewhat of a crowded tight end room with already having Big Dog. Rob was coming back. They liked what they saw on TD, and obviously you got Joe being the fullback. It essentially came down to, or at least what it felt like, was kind of being that odd man out. And then when all that stuff just went down, it kind of at least felt like that. I feel like that. Of course, you have third-round guy who's playing well. Rob coming off ACL, high hopes, and Big Dog obviously is Big Dog. So I felt like that kind of was the big thing, just being a crowded room.
Did they mention at all the idea of trying to get you a chance to start fresh somewhere else and maybe get on a team like before the season started? Was that ever expressed to you?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was hearing a lot of with when it came to the coaches and my agent and everything, just trying to, because before that happened, I had like tweaked my knee a little bit. So there was like, that's why I didn't play in the San Fran game. That kind of led to essentially me being cut. And then after that, they're like, yeah, we just want you to take care of yourself. And, your football career is far from over. And you never know what will happen down the road with us or with any team. So kind of just took it as, get back to being 100 and see what happens when the time comes.
So who spoke to you when you were released? What was that conversation like, and what was said?
I spoke to Goody and Matt and Coach Bisaccia, as well as obviously Coach Dunn. Just kind of talked to everybody who I got a lot of FaceTime with throughout the day, and just heard from them and their thoughts on it, and just, of course, encouragement, like not to get my head down and just to keep fighting and keep going, obviously, because only year 3, there's a lot left in the tank. So they're just a lot of words of encouragement and stuff like that.
This side of the sport is kind of something that fans really don't know a whole lot about, like they get the notification that this player's been cut or this player's been traded, but I feel like fans really don't know what goes into that process. So the insight from you is it's definitely interesting. Brian Gutekunst, he's Packers general manager, obviously. You said he spoke to you when you were released. Brian is another guy, fans really, we don't know much about Brian. All we can judge about him is the moves he makes, the players he brings in, the players he moves on from, and we get to watch his press conferences 4 or 5 times a year, if that. What is he like with the players? How connected is he with the locker room? You were a guy, you were brought in from the Colts, you were on the practice squad. How much FaceTime did you get with Brian Gutekunst?
Not that much. Obviously he's got a lot on his plate with bringing in guys, as well as, looking over the team, making sure we're the best we can be. So, every once in a while, like, may say hi in passing, like in the hallways and stuff, or on the way to meetings, or in the morning getting breakfast and stuff like that. But as far as getting to know each other like every day, like it wasn't like that, because obviously he was more upstairs and we're practice and working out and stuff. So there wasn't too much time, but I know when I first got there, he was trying to get to know me, like asking me a lot of questions about like where I came from, the journey, everything. But there's only so much communication that goes from upstairs to downstairs when it comes to player to personnel people.
That's interesting. Did When you were brought in 2020, did it feel like you had a biggest fan in the building? Like, did it feel like there was, whether it be LaFleur or whoever the special teams coordinator was at the time, did it feel like there was someone who really wanted to bring you in?
That's a good question. It's hard because it was like I was there as kind of just an insurance policy, like just in case, because obviously Joe went down for the year, but they still had Lovett who was doing his thing and doing well. So I was more so just like an insurance policy in case anything happened. But obviously, once I started, gaining traction and making plays, I felt like everyone was like, "Dude, like if you keep working, like you're gonna be on this team and you're gonna be able to play on Sunday." And all you got to do is just keep doing what you're doing every day. So after a while, like, because like you said, there's when it comes to being signed to be on the practice squad, like you could literally be there on Sunday and be gone on Tuesday. Like you really never know. Like it's that kind of quick of a turnaround. So at first when I came in, I remember Jay always jokes. He was like, I literally had no idea you were coming on the team and you were just there at practice one day and then you're just with me 2 years later. I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's kind of literally how it went. Is one day I was at home and the next day I was practicing. So it was kind of like it's just kind of that quick turnaround. And then, like I said, just continuing to work, continue to make plays and prove myself every day. I kind of gained fans after that, but it's hard to know that coming straight in. Of course, being off the street and no pro day and like all the the story. I mean, all that stuff. So it was definitely a little weird starting out.
Yeah, man, we're never going to forget that touchdown you had in Chicago, week 17, 2020, man. Never going to forget that one.
No, yeah, that was definitely that was crazy.
Yeah, that really was. We loved that when you did that, and to be able to interview you after that was awesome too. Back to Brian a little bit, and like you mentioned, how guys can come in and get cut within a matter of days, especially on the practice squad and things like that. So how connected was the team at the time when you were there with different rumors about possible player acquisitions, whether it was free agents or trades? Was there a time where you were in the building and you were hearing rumors kind of like from the interior, the inside of the building, that maybe you weren't just hearing on ESPN or reading on Twitter? What was that like throughout your time there?
I mean, obviously you hear stuff when you're in the locker room and obviously social media is such a big part of the world right now. So you hear stuff all the time, but it was just constantly, put into our mind to just focus on who's in the building and what the people in the building were saying. So obviously you hear everything and people are asking you, are they bringing in this person? Is this person going to be your teammate? Like, what are you hearing? And as far as me, I wasn't too focused on it because, it really didn't have any sort of importance to me. Like, I'm just like, I'm coming in trying to do my job. I'm not really too worried about who's coming or who's going. As long as I'm here, I really don't care.
Well, I'll ask a more direct version of what Braun just asked you. When Davante Adams was traded in March, had you heard any underlying, rumors of that being a possibility?
I mean, there was some talk about it. It's kind of hard to hear all that stuff when it's like off season because everyone just goes their separate ways. But obviously, being with Rob over the summer and training and stuff, you definitely hear about it. And I remember I was back home in Des Moines, and I saw like the notification, and there was like a picture of him in the Raiders uniform, and I literally looked at my friends, and I was like, "What just happened?" But I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I kind of like you hear about it, but you just never know until it actually happens because he could have chose to stay, he obviously chose to leave, and it was just like it's all rumors until something actually gets put on paper. So I heard about it, but again, still shocked when I saw all the notifications and everything.
So how did the team react to losing a player like that, a Hall of Fame caliber player, when you're on the team at the time and you have your teammates that you speak to and things like that? So what was that like, the team reaction to losing a guy like that it helps you win and has helped you win for so long? What is the messages that you guys are kind of sending to each other at that point?
I know we all messaged each other and we were, of course, shocked to see, but at the same time, we were like, just kind of like looking around to see like who's going to step up and be that guy, and then of course looking to see like who's going to be our new teammates and who's coming in and how's the team going to look next year. Like all that kind of comes into play and all that kind of is what you're thinking about is like who's going to be the guy to step up, who's going to be the guys, multiple to come and try to bring the team together because obviously that's a huge piece that just left. So it's not going to be just one person who's going to be able to just simply put in his position and just have the same identical stats that he had before. So during camp and during OTAs, it was kind of like looking around, seeing who's going to be that leader, who is going to be the person to keep the team as glued as we were before, because obviously that's a big voice, that's a big captain that left. So just a lot of communication and a lot of just a lot of testing. Honestly, we were just testing people's will and getting your mind tested because it's gonna be different. It's gonna feel different. It's gonna look different during camp. So it's something you gotta get used to, as well as just realize that people are gonna have to take bigger responsibilities. So we're kind of weeding through the grass, seeing who's gonna be those people for us.
So what was that internal message from Aaron to guys like you and other guys that were going to be in the mix catching passes, especially like whether it was immediately after the Davante trade or when you guys first talked to him again? What was the message like when you guys kind of addressed the lack of Davante being there? And so what was that? What was expressed to you guys about what you needed to do to step up and how you were going to fill that void?
It wasn't so much like a direct meeting about it, but I know in our room we were like, obviously, like it was a common message of obviously there's a big piece that's gone. So we're going to need to be a room that 12 can like fall back on and rely on throughout camp, throughout OTAs and everything throughout the season. Like that was kind of our message in the room. It's just, yeah, obviously that's a big person who left, but we're going to need to keep going. There's nothing's going to stop. They're still going to play football. So that was just our thing in the room. We didn't really speak about it as like a full team or offense or anything. It was just in our tight end room, we were talking about how we need to make sure we're on our stuff. So even though, one of his good best friends and one of the best, obviously the best receiver in the league leaves, he still has people he can rely on and look to, and hopefully that's the tight end room.
So this was a year where, obviously you lose Davante Adams. The Packers are going to be relying so much on young talent, young pass catchers especially. And throughout the season, the Packers were not very good this year. And throughout the season, a lot was talked about how Aaron Rodgers gets along with rookies, gets along with young players. Is he hard to work with, this and that. From your perspective, what was it like being brought in and being a young player with Aaron Rodgers?
It was definitely like shocking is the best way I could put it, because obviously you get to practice. I'm getting to practice the first day, and you're seeing this man throw passes like in real life. So you kind of have to get past that first like shock wave of like, okay, well, that's Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, and then kind of zone in and be like, okay, this is my teammate, someone who's gonna need me to rely on and need me to, like, if he's gonna trust me to be out there, he needs to be able to trust that I'm gonna know what I'm doing. So obviously there was a lot coming in and a lot to learn, and obviously he's a genius, some might say, when it comes to this type of stuff, and he has like his own playbook and signals and stuff. So there was a lot to learn, but like the people who stick around, or the people who hone in on it and really like take it as a challenge to learn everything that he knows, and to come out there and be prepared, because he's probably one of the most prepared people when it comes to Sundays.
It's funny that you mentioned the hand signals, because in the Packers world this season, there was an article that comes out about Aaron Rodgers having this, his own playbook. He's got this secret playbook with all these complicated hand signals. I don't know if I imagine you haven't read this article. I don't know if you've even heard about this, but how real is Aaron Rodgers with the hand signals? Is that a real thing that he has? How much of a challenge is it for receivers to learn all these hand signals? Is he quizzing you on these hand signals? How real is it?
I mean, yeah, every Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday before our walkthrough. We would go over like all the plays and stuff for the week, and watching like the cut ups. And then once we're done with that, like he kind of takes over the meetings and takes us through just a plethora of hand signals that he knows, and we're all expected to know it. And I mean, there was a lot of them, but it's like I know us, we definitely like met with like some of the young guys, and like we would meet like out on the field after practice going over some of the hand signals because there was a lot and there was a lot to remember. But that's just kind of one thing that's good about him is just like you're able to do anything on that field. It's so unpredictable, which, yeah, I guess as a young guy, it could be kind of stressful having to learn all that and be expected to know all that. But I mean, if you want to do it, you're able to do it. It wasn't too hard. I know I'd watch some games on Sunday and I'd seen his hand signals and I still remember pretty much all of them and the one word plays and I'm hearing them. I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen because I could, as much as I studied them and how many there were, because I wanted to kind of impress them that I knew all the hand signals. Like I still remember them till this day.
Yeah, I mean that's so interesting to hear that because so many people have talked about that all season and what it's like to be a receiver with Aaron having to learn these weekly hand signals and how difficult. We even saw sometimes the receivers, the young guys, the rookies would struggle with that. And speaking of young guys, to transition a little bit, we know and understand that you're good friends with Jordan and Jordan Love. And
Yeah.
so when did you guys meet? Obviously, you guys played together and you were in a lot of similar situations at practice. So how did you guys become close and what is that relationship like with you guys?
That's my guy. I'm not going to lie. I literally just talked to him the other day. But again, coming in and kind of trying to get to know everybody and running the scout team, he was running the scout team when I was there my first year, kind of gaining a little bit of, connection and friendship off that of, making plays during scout team, just getting on the same timing as well as like running routes for him after practice whenever he needs either someone to spot catch or there's a route or two that I kind of wanted to work on or something. And just like, obviously you spend so much time with these guys, like you're going to get to know them. And then obviously over the summer, going to weddings, like we were at AJ Dillon's wedding this past summer. We went to a Bucks game, like just getting to know guys outside of the facility definitely helped. And he's one of the probably like 5-6 people I got in a group chat that we text on a regular, and I would tap in during the season and tell them like, hey, I'm proud of y'all, I'm definitely watching, still supporting y'all no matter what, because I mean at the end of the day they're your brothers that you spend literally like 15 hours a day with, almost, it feels like. So now he's a good dude, and I'm excited to see him again in a month or two. So no, he's a good guy.
Jordan was a quarterback coming out of Utah State. He was one of these quarterbacks that's toolsy, but most people agreed it would probably take some time before he could become a really good starter. What have you seen from him in his development that makes you think he's able to start in the NFL? What's the biggest trait that you have seen the most improvement from Jordan Love as the quarterback?
Obviously during this past summer of OTAs and minicamp and everything, there was just kind of a certain like swagger and demand that he had that he might not have the year before or the year before that. Kind of, it's just like he was comfortable and he was calling the plays and doing his own signals, and it just felt different. You know what I mean? And I remember there was a couple practices where he was like going crazy, and you could tell we're like, okay, like we might be all right regardless. And he was just like, he was throwing dots, and it was just like, okay, well, you could just tell the difference. And the way he was commanding the huddle, the way he was like in meetings, it just felt different. And he felt a little, I don't want to say grown up, but like, it felt like it was his huddle. It was a swagger, a confidence that he was having when he was throwing the ball, calling the plays. And when he was showing that, like, we were literally like, okay, like we get it now.
That's great to hear in terms of his development and what Packers fans want to see, because he's a guy that a lot of people have hope that he could be the future for us and want to see play. But the Packers, whether it's Brian or Matt, have made it clear that they want Aaron Rodgers back, and Aaron has a lot of incentive to return for monetary reasons as well as just the way this season ended. So if Aaron does come back like a lot of people expect, has Jordan ever talked about the possibility of maybe going to a different team to start elsewhere if Aaron does continue to play? How content do you think he is being a backup for the fourth year when he has a lot of growth that he wants to do, and a lot of that starts by getting on the field and showing what he can do from a starter level?
I mean, that's obviously hard for anybody, especially in his position, being a first-round pick, and you got a lot of high hopes coming in, and like you said, like not only do the coaches and the fans like we're kind of putting him in the position to be that next guy. So obviously it's hard to just, sit back and wait for anybody, especially a person like him where I know he's so competitive and he wants to play so bad and wants to be out there. And I mean, I asked him that question. It's just like, bro, how are you? He's like, obviously, like, he's just like, I want to play. But obviously, like, you got a 4-time MVP in front of you. That's obviously they're going to want that person back. Like, he still shows, obviously, 12 still plays at a high level. So it's hard to just be like, to just throw that away. And it's just kind of a weird situation for him. But I just know he wants to play ball, which obviously anyone in his position would. But yeah, I really do, as a teammate and as a friend, I really do want to see him get that opportunity to play wherever it be and show what he can do, because I know like he's more than capable, has more than enough talent to be playing, to be starting. He's just kind of he's just in a unfortunate situation where you're behind a 4-time MVP who's going to be wearing a gold jacket one day.
And so, I mean, that is so tough for him, right? Because like you said, first round picks, especially in this day and age, they play right away or they play maybe after a few games during their first season. But this would be his 4th year sitting. So, and reports were coming out in the middle of the season that if Aaron Rodgers does come back, which he's alluded to throughout the year, and he's right now, he says he's uncertain, but Griff and I both agree that he's likely coming back, and just based on, the sense that we get. So I know you can't really speak for him, but do you think he would be open to playing elsewhere this year to get that chance to start as opposed to sitting for another season?
I mean, like you said, I can't really speak for him, but I mean, if he chose to do that, I think I'd understand as to why, and I think we'd all understand why. Like, he wants to prove himself that he can play, like that he wasn't picked in the first round for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to compete at the highest level and he wants to show what he's capable of. So, I mean, I'd understand either of his choices, like whether he wanted to stay and still kind of see where it goes and ride it out. But I also understand if he wanted to, test the waters and see where else he can go, and in order to try to start, at least get more games, consecutive games under his belt to show, to show the league what he's capable of. Because it's hard to just come in and play here and start here and there and, kind of create, worth with yourself when you're just put in every once in a while. So it's hard. It's a risky decision to do either one. But at the same time, I'd understand his decision either way.
It's tough for both parties here. It's tough for the Packers too, because this is a guy that they traded up for in 2020. Clearly Brian Gutekunst saw a lot in him. Matt LaFleur has said nothing but great things about Jordan, right? So Matt LaFleur, I want to ask about here. He is, Brown and I always joke about how he famously says nothing at his press conferences. He just, like most NFL coaches are, he really does not give you a lot of information. So similar to what we said about Goody, Matt LaFleur too, the fans really don't know a whole lot about his coaching style or what he's like in the locker room. So what kind of insight can you give on that? What is Matt like as a coach, and how good of a leader is he in the locker room?
No, he's a good dude for sure. Definitely someone you could just talk to about like anything, ball, life, like whatever. Like, I feel like that was one thing I was actually happy about this offseason, was where I actually felt like I got to talk to him and see him a little bit more outside the facility or outside of practice at least, and, get to know him a little bit more personally, which was nice because obviously like football is football, and being a football coach can obviously be tough. You got a lot going on and you got to kind of like not guard yourself, but you kind of have to put up a wall maybe a little bit. But to see him as like Matt LaFleur and kind of see him just be personable and have fun with guys, like when we went like paintballing and bowling and stuff like that, and just seeing him outside of the facility and getting to talk to him, getting to know him as a person was actually really nice to see, because obviously you spend so much time in the same building and in the same practice with these people. Like, obviously you're going to want to get to know them outside of football and, what they like to do and who they are. And it's better to play for someone. You could play harder for someone like you actually like and you actually respect, and someone you actually know pretty well.
All right, Dom, before we get out of here, we do want to know what's next for you, because if I'm not mistaken, which I very well could be, but you are currently a free agent, right?
Yes.
So what's next for you? Are you trying to play in the NFL again? Are you looking at any spring leagues? Do you have teams who may be interested?
Yeah, I have a couple teams who've contacted me about futures contracts, and I'm going to figure out here in the next week or so. Obviously, teams are still playing, so it's kind of hard to, just decide right now with not ending up with a team like at the end of the season. So I know in a couple days I'll figure out what I want to do and where I want to go. But yeah, I got a couple places who've offered future contracts. I just got to make a decision on which one I want to do. But yeah, I want to play ball, So there's no other option for me right now, and I know I'm able to. I know I have the ability to. It's just kind of just being in that right position and just getting the opportunity to.
Yeah, we know you still can. I mean, we saw you in camp when we were there for the course of a week and we watched you and it's not just because you're a friend of the show. I mean, we were putting you on our standouts list because you were just doing things. I thought in the passing game in particular, we saw things that whether just didn't get to see them prior or whatever the case is, you were doing things that we hadn't seen you do. So we know that you can play. I do want to ask you though, what goes into the decision for you? Like right now, is it about where you want to live? Is it about opportunity to possibly play? What are some of the things that are going to go into this decision? And also one quick little question is, and the answer is probably no, I understand that, but is Green Bay on the table at all? Because I know they did offer contracts to players already, but and yet you mentioned that there's a possibility you could come back someday. And so I would love to see you back in Green Bay, obviously on the 90 man at least. But what are some of the teams, or what are you looking for in some of these teams that are going to be in the mix for you?
Yeah, just like you said, just where they are, as well as just how they even envision on using me, as far as like fullback or tight end or whatever when it comes to that type of stuff, because like you said, I feel like this camp I was showing a lot more of versatility of things that I've been telling and been harping that I able to do. So I was actually getting an opportunity to do that, and I felt like I was coming out on top most of the time. So just kind of weighing my options and seeing the pros and cons, living wise and team wise, as well as just the way they want to see the way they see me on their team. Obviously, is gonna be a big thing because obviously, I do want to come in and play. So a lot of those things will definitely go into my consideration here in the next week and a half, and then Green Bay, huh? Maybe, I don't know. It's not up to me, but I don't know. I feel like it would. I don't know. I feel like, in all honesty, it'd be kind of tough to go back there, at least for not like that I couldn't do it, but it's just like I don't know. That's a great question. That's not up to me. That's above my pay grade. I have no idea. I don't really care where I play football. I just love to play.
Well, I do want to know, because early on in your time at Green Bay, both years, I'd say you were more of the H-back type of tight end, right? You were more of a getting dirty in the run game, fullback type. What is the kind of, if you had to compare your dream version of yourself as a player, which tight end would you say you want to model your game after? Do you want to be Travis Kelce, or do you want to be more like Gronk? Like, who's a tight end that you really want to be in the NFL?
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp. That's a great choice.
Because he great blocker, physical, but obviously still capable, runs really good routes, gets the ball in space, able to do something with it. And I feel like my game really just resonates with that really well. So, and I think we're about the same weight, honestly. So I feel like that's, definitely Shannon Sharp is someone I could see my game like being a mirror.
That's awesome, man. I mean, like we said, we're always going to be rooting for you. I would say, Braun, you can agree with me here. Our three most surprising moves by the Packers this season was trading Davante Adams, cutting Bill Turner, and cutting Dominique Dafney. It made no sense to us at the time. After the season, they go 8-9, still makes no sense. And this is now the third time
they
he's come on the
certainly
show.
could have used him. They certainly could have used Dominique.
I'm seriously. I don't know if you watched many Packers games this season, man, but they definitely could have used you out there.
I watched a couple, obviously because I know 80+% of the team, so I'm like, obviously I'm going to support my guys. And
right.
It's funny, I'd always get tweeted at like, "Dom, dude, come back," or this, that, and the third, or like it was pretty funny, but I would have loved to be there. it is what it is. It's this league. It's insane.
Well, man, if we were the GMs, if we had control, you'd have an open invite to come back to this team. But thank you so much for coming on the show once again, Dom. And we are always going to be rooting for you, and we're going to be rooting for you wherever you go next in the NFL.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dom. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.